Next on Currents News, the parade may have been canceled, but the St. Patrick's Day celebration continues along Fifth Avenue. I'm Tim Harfman, and I'll have the story.
The legends about St. Patrick as he drove the snakes, the poisonous snakes from Ireland.
You'll hear more about the patron saint of New York from Cardinal Dolan, who's praying to him now more than ever. Masses are still being celebrated in the Diocese of Brooklyn. We have information you need to know. Plus, the Pope's virtual parish, the Holy Father coping with the virus outbreak in an exciting way. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. This is St. Patrick's Day unlike any ever before. The world-famous march up Fifth Avenue postponed. One of the many big changes brought on by the coronavirus pandemic. Still, Currents News' Tim Harfman reports that despite the new normal we are all living with, today everybody is Irish.
The sounds of pipes and drums along Manhattan's Fifth Avenue replaced by cars and trucks. New York's parade postponed after 258 years. But outside St. Patrick's Cathedral, a small group showed Irish pride.
Oh, Johnny boy, the pipes are calling.
Others with a song in their heart.
This corona thing ain't going to beat America. It's not going to beat Ireland. It's not going to beat nobody.
Johnny Larkin and his family traveled from Ireland for the celebration.
Today's St. Patrick's Day and we're marching here. That's it. Believe, you gotta believe.
It's a day not only known for a march, but for the 5th century saint credited for converting Ireland to Catholicism.
St. Patrick's Day celebrates the faith that he brought to Ireland. That's something we can't forget about, and no matter what happens as far as health is concerned, we still have our faith.
The cathedral's rector, Monsignor Robert Ritchie, shocked by the empty parade route.
The word everybody uses is surreal, and that's certainly the right word.
And that's how you could describe bars too. Usually packed with pub goers, no one's drinking Jameson, and time's up on this happy hour. Not a single soul at McSorley's, which the bartender says would have had a line forming at 5 a.m.
There's nobody here, nobody around, nobody even in the streets. It's, I feel like I'm in a science fiction movie here.
The city's oldest bar, empty and forced to only serve takeout.
It's 1 o'clock, St. Patrick's Day 2020. I'm the only customer. I'm doing takeout light beer, takeout corned beef sandwich. It's heartbreaking, it's heart-wrenching.
But New Yorkers are resilient.
We'll get through this. We got through the Spanish plague in 1918. You know, we got through World War I, World War II. And it's not like we're being asked to fight in a war. We're just being asked to stay home.
A battle worth toasting to.
This is for McSorley's, New York, and the world.
That's a taste of optimism we could all use right now. Though the parade was postponed, no word yet on when it will take place. Christine.
All right, Tim, now you mentioned the takeout for bars and restaurants. So what is the new protocol and what are the repercussions if people seat customers?
Yeah, so restaurants can only serve takeout food and alcohol up until 8 p.m. Bars that don't serve food must close. And Mayor Bill de Blasio says among the penalties, that includes a $400 fine and could potentially include arrests. Christine.
Wow. All right. Thank you, Tim. Normally on St. Patrick's Day, Cardinal Timothy Dolan would be joining Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio on the steps of the cathedral for the parade. Instead, the Cardinal is recalling the great accomplishment of Patrick when he drove the snakes out of Ireland.
Snakes, of course, represent things poisonous, things toxic, things dangerous to us. And I think you would share my sentiment today on St. Patrick's Day. We need him to drive out snakes today.
The Cardinal said he's referring to the snake of the coronavirus, which has harmed so many of our brothers and sisters. The pandemic is leading to the suspension of all public masses in the Diocese of Brooklyn. Bishop DiMarzio has issued a dispensation from the obligation to attend, and there will be big changes leading up to Easter. There will be no public masses on Palm Sunday. Palms will be left on church tables for anyone who stops by. Also, Reconciliation Monday is being canceled. Holy Week services and and liturgies will not be celebrated publicly in parishes, and the Easter sacraments for RCIA candidates and catechumens are being postponed. At the same time, many churches in Brooklyn and Queens are still open to parishioners for prayer. They're offering a sense of community and companionship during the outbreak, and the faithful are being urged to view the celebration of the Eucharist on television. Watch right here on Net TV for live masses in multiple languages. 5 of the live services will be televised from the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph every day, Monday through Friday. Starting at 8 a.m., the liturgy in English will be on the air, followed by the celebration in Creole at 8:30. Mass in Spanish is going to be broadcast at 9 a.m. with a Polish liturgy following at 9:30. The faithful can see the Mass in Italian at 10 o'clock. At noon, Mass in English will be televised from St. James Cathedral Basilica. On Sunday, 7 Masses are on the Net schedule. At 8 in the morning, the celebration will be in Korean. Then the Creole Mass will take place at 9, and the Italian liturgy will be celebrated at 10 o'clock. All 3 are being televised from the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph. At 11 a.m., the Mass in English will be held at St. James Cathedral Basilica. That will be followed by 3 additional Masses from St. Joseph's. The Polish Mass will be held at noon. Then at 1:30, a Spanish Mass will be shown. After that, the liturgy in Chinese will be aired at 3 p.m. Net is New York's Catholic station, and you can find it on Verizon's Fios Channel 48, on Optimum's Channel 30, and on Spectrum's Channel 97. The schedule is online at netny.tv. If you missed any of these times, we will repeat them for you again at the end of the program. Virtual masses are becoming the norm, and priests are getting creative, trying to keep parishioners active even though they can't physically be at Mass. At the Vatican, Pope Francis has been live streaming since the beginning of last week. There's nothing new about Pope Francis celebrating daily Mass at Casa Santa Marta, but what is new is that this Mass is now live streamed.
Io vorrei che oggi pregassimo per gli anziani che soffrono questo momento in modo speciale.
Since March 9th, after Italy went into lockdown, preventing Catholics from going to church, the Pope has been live streaming his daily Mass at his Santa Marta residence, which before then had always been celebrated in private. Today, the Pope's virtual parish heard him pray for the elderly who are alone and afraid, living in isolation because of the coronavirus.
Una solitudine interna molto grande e dalle volte con tanta paura. Loro ci hanno dato la saggezza, la vita, la storia. Anche noi siamo vicini a loro con la preghiera.
As of Monday morning, the papal Mass was attracting a live audience of about 6,000 people, the size of a large parish. Meanwhile, some 21,000 people have viewed this Facebook Live post from a pastor here in the Brooklyn Diocese. Father Christopher O'Connor, pastor of Blessed Virgin Mary Help of Christians, St. Mary's Winfield in Woodside, led a procession of the Blessed Sacrament through the streets of Queens yesterday morning, bringing the church to the people.
I ask you, do not walk with us so we don't have big crowds, but just be the sisters, myself, singing. Come outside the house if you want, or just look from your window.
Father O'Connor is also celebrating Masses live on Facebook. And he's not alone. This is video on Facebook from presentation of the Blessed Virgin Mary Church in Jamaica. The parish is also using social media to keep its parishioners involved and praying during this uncertain time. Masses in Spanish and English, as well as praying the Holy Rosary, live on social media. Santa Maria. St. Mel's Parish in Flushing implemented live stream Masses last September for those who weren't able to attend Mass regularly. Now, because of the pandemic, we're told as of last Saturday, their live stream views have increased more than 1,000%. 10 priests have now passed away in Italy because of the coronavirus. 6 of those Holy Fathers returning back to heaven were from the Diocese of Bergamo, located just outside of Milan. Right now, we know of 1 other priest with the virus. That's Bishop Antonio Napoleoni of Cremona. He is now in recovery at home after being hospitalized for 10 days. A French bishop who met with Pope Francis has also tested positive for the virus. Bishop Emmanuel Delmas, the head of the Diocese of Angers, says he first felt symptoms while in Rome last week. He was in a group of 31 others meeting with the Pope for their ad limina visit. The Vatican has not confirmed if the bishop took part in the custom of shaking the Holy Father's hand. The sanctuary of Our Lady of Lourdes is closed tonight for the first time in over a century. The shutdown follows new restrictions in France to fight off the virus pandemic. At the same time, a French bishop is calling on Catholics worldwide to participate in a novena to Our Lady of Lourdes. Starting today and until March 25th, the faithful are urged to pray to Mary for the sick who've been infected by the disease. The outbreak is making a big difference all across Europe. Quarantines are in place and borders are being shut down. The sweeping changes are designed to stop the virus from spreading. Fred Pleitgen has more directly from the Polish-German border.
Severe travel restrictions taking place all over Europe as Germany has closed several of its borders in the south, the west, and also towards the north of the country as well. Poland also closed its border with Germany, and that's where I'm standing right now. Essentially, what the Poles are doing is what many other European countries are doing. They're not allowing travelers from Germany to come in, but they are allowing Poles to come in and go back to their country, and also people have to commute to work between countries and across the border. The other thing that most European countries are trying to keep in place, and the Poles as well, is they're trying to keep trucks moving across the border, to keep that cargo going, to make sure that the economy of the European Union doesn't completely come to a standstill. Now, that's easier said than done. There were massive traffic jams here at the border as every trucker who came across, just like every other motorist, had to get his temperature taken, or her temperature taken, and then fill out a form as well to make sure that the government has all the contact data in case that person needs to go into isolation. Needless to say, there were massive traffic jams at this border and in many other European borders as well, as the continent's economy, continent's public life continues to shut down, with the Germans also clamping down and putting up new restrictions on public life in that country as well.
Fred Pleitgen reporting from the Polish-German border. The two countries combined are reporting about 9,000 cases of the virus. At the international airport in San Juan, the National Guard is on patrol to keep unwanted visitors out. The soldiers are screening all incoming passengers for symptoms of the coronavirus. Across the island, streets are already empty because Puerto Rican Governor Wanda Vazquez has imposed a curfew from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Visitors are only allowed out for work or emergency situations. There's a lot more news headed your way. An important update about Catholic schools in Brooklyn and Queens from the man in charge. The San Francisco area is living under the tightest virus restrictions anywhere in the land. And don't go to a Social Security office until you hear the latest news about them. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. The coronavirus pandemic has closed all schools in New York City, leaving families with many questions. Here to help Catholic parents better understand what's happening now and what the future could be like is the Superintendent of Schools for the Brooklyn Diocese, Dr. Thomas Chadzuko. Doctor, welcome for joining us. Thanks for joining us today. The decision to close the diocesan schools was actually made even before the decision to close the city's public schools. What went into that decision?
Well, we were monitoring the events that were taking place in the city and the state, and when we looked at our schools, we felt that in order to be proactive, we wanted to make sure that the safety of all of our children, our families, were taken care of prior to a dramatic decision. It also gave us an opportunity to plan more effectively for our families and the work that they would need to do in the event that we had to close, and giving them the weekend to at least have some time to understand the importance of this.
Right, and to be clear, students, teachers, staff members in the Catholic schools, has anybody tested positive for the virus?
At this point, no one has confirmed case.
Okay.
And obviously, you know, in the media and all the work that we hear, you have suspected case, you have various interactions. but no one to our knowledge has been a confirmed case reported to us by the New York City Department of Health.
Okay, and while the schools will be closed, distance learning programs will be underway. How will that work? How will it involve all the grade levels? What's happening?
We actually yesterday, Monday, we had all of our principals bring in all of their teachers to work in preparation for the distance learning. And it was really great. We hit the road running this morning. You'll see various postings, various Facebook postings. There's a couple glitches. We have, most of our schools use Google Classroom. But even coming out of the schools that don't use Google Classroom, we're looking at Zoom meetings, we're looking at conference calls, we're looking at alternative ways. We've sent a number of resources to all of our principals and our teachers today. Also, we're posted on our Facebook page as well as our diocesan website a number of links that parents can use to work with their children.
All right. Any idea how long this will go on for? How long the schools will be closed?
That's the great unknown, Christine. I think what we're trying to do is plan through April 20th.
Right.
I think every day when we meet, we discuss different options. We spent a lot of time on the educational perspective the past week. So when you asked the question, the lead time, why did we plan to close this week eventually? That was to really plan for the educational piece. Right. But now we need to begin to look at if it's long term.
And what if it goes on longer? What are the plans for graduations, proms, even regents exams, and those kind of things?
I think as we look beyond April 20th, I think as we look at, as we've done everything to today, even today with the governor's executive order, we really need to follow what the city and state is saying. We talk every day with the city at 2 o'clock, and that's the New York City Department of Ed, the New York City Department of Health, those resources that are made available to us. So it's a question that we're thinking about. Hopefully we don't have to do that, because looking at our 8th graders, they're looking towards graduation. They're looking towards their graduation dance, their trips, to a ranch or something, and that's part of a legacy that they have. So there's a lot of emotional piece, as we were talking before.
Yeah, it's really sad. And you mentioned tuition before. Is there any consideration being given to maybe a reimbursement for the families that have paid?
We've begun dialogue with regard to the tuition. We're looking at resources. We're looking at, are there foundations? We're really hoping that New York State comes through with some type of reimbursement program that we can use to lift some of the burden on our parents. Right. Well, the city hopefully would also come through. So more to come on that. I'd love to come back and talk with you. We're meeting tomorrow with our Academy Advisory Committee, which is made up of 12 board chair people, and they've had those questions. And obviously we'll be working internally with all the various resources that we have as a diocese to find out potential options for tuition reimbursement if we have to, or how do we assist families that cannot make the tuition payments.
All right, Tom Chadzuko, Superintendent of Catholic Schools for Brooklyn and Queens, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you for having me.
Mayor Bill de Blasio is saying tonight that he's considering a shelter-in-place restriction for city residents. That's already happening in the San Francisco Bay Area region. The order to stay put is in place in 7 California counties. Cornell Bernard reports from San Francisco.
So whatever we need to do to stay alive, then that's what we need to do.
San Francisco resident Peggy Ivy reacted to news that she and millions of others in the Bay Area must shelter at home for the next 3 weeks to help slow the spread of the coronavirus.
My major concern is, am I going to live through this?
This is not the time to panic.
San Francisco Mayor London Breed says the order, which goes into effect at midnight, will mean bars and gyms must close. Restaurants will be reduced to takeout only, but essential businesses will stay open.
The grocery stores will remain open. The gas stations will remain open. The banks will remain open. The pharmacies will remain open. There's no need to rush out to do things at these particular locations because they will be available to you.
Police Chief William Scott says his department doesn't plan to issue fines or make arrests. He's looking for voluntary compliance during the order.
Yes, by law, enforcement is an option, but that is not our desire. That is not what we intend to do. We intend to adhere to the spirit of what this is all about and keeping people safe and keeping this virus from spreading.
The health department says shelter in place doesn't mean you can't leave your home to get exercise.
You will still be able to walk your dog or go on a hike alone or with someone you live with or even with another person, as long as you keep 6 feet between you.
That was Cornell Bernard reporting. More than 290 cases have been identified in the Bay Area region. If you have an appointment at your local Social Security office, it's canceled because of the coronavirus. The government agency made the decision to close its offices to protect the population they serve, older Americans and those with underlying medical conditions. You can still contact the office by phone or on its website. And you can count on this. The 2020 census is being affected by the pandemic. This year's census will rely on mail, phone, and online responses more than ever before. But it still needs workers to knock on doors to collect information from minorities, seniors, college students, and the homeless. In 2010, 145,000 temporary workers were doing that. Right now, because of the virus, fewer than 24,000 are. The polls are closed in Ohio. Well, they actually never opened today. Primary day was postponed. The state's health director said she ordered the closing to avoid the imminent threat with a high probability of widespread exposure to COVID-19. The 3 other states with primaries, Arizona, Florida, and Illinois, all went ahead as planned. Still to come on Currents News, the great story of a woman who's not letting the virus get in the way of her big birthday. And we're going to repeat the schedule of live masses being televised right here on NET. Some good news coming from China because of the coronavirus. NASA and the European Space Agency releasing these images showing air pollution has improved in several cities, especially in the center of the outbreak there, Wuhan. Experts say that's because of the quarantines, travel restrictions, and closed factories, which has reduced the normal smog. Quarantines may be canceling events around the world, but not even a pandemic could stop a community from honoring a woman's milestone birthday. Millie Erickson turned 100 this past Sunday while isolated at a Massachusetts nursing home. But she wasn't alone. Family gathered outside her window to sing the centenarian a happy birthday while she was in quarantine for the coronavirus.
It was really nice that they let us to do this. She doesn't usually cry, but she did. So she's just thrilled to see everybody, and she's lived a good, long life.
Love you. Happy 100th.
And a happy birthday to you, Millie. We pray you can have a proper celebration when the quarantine is over. And finally, tonight, while public masses in the Diocese of Brooklyn have been canceled, NET TV is where you can come to stay connected. Once again, here's the schedule of live masses. 5 of the services will be televised from the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph every day, Monday through Friday. Starting at 8 a.m., the liturgy in English will be on the air, followed by the celebration in Creole at 8:30. Mass in Spanish is going to be broadcast at 9 a.m. with a Polish liturgy following at 9:30. The faithful can see the Mass in Italian at 10 o'clock, and at noon, Mass in English will be televised from St. James Cathedral Basilica. On Sunday, 7 Masses are on the NET schedule. At 8 in the morning, the celebration will be in Korean. Then the Creole Mass will take place at 9, and the Italian liturgy will be celebrated at 10 o'clock. All 3 are being televised from the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph. At 11 a.m., the Mass in English will be held at St. James Cathedral Basilica. That will be followed by 3 additional Masses from St. Joseph's. The Polish Mass will be held at noon. Then at 1:30, a Spanish Mass will be shown. After that, the liturgy in Chinese will be aired at 3 p.m. NET is New York's Catholic station, and you can find it on Verizon's Fios Channel 48, on Optimum's Channel 30, and on Spectrum's Channel 97. The schedule is online at netny.tv. That is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.